There are moments in life when we feel as though we are standing before a locked gate, barred from something essential, as if the essence of who we truly are has been concealed behind a veil we cannot pierce. We tell ourselves that somewhere, far off in the distance, there exists a secret key, the hidden passageway, a mysterious portal that if only discovered would grant us access to the life we were meant to live, to the person we were meant to become. Yet the irony, quiet and persistent as the ticking of a clock in a silent room, is that the door has never been locked at all. The barrier we imagined so vividly is little more than the projection of our own forgetting. The truth whispers, the door to your true self has always been open, you just never looked. This statement is both simple and unfathomably vast. It belongs simultaneously to the world of the ordinary and the realm of the cosmic. It carries within it a practical truth you can test in the smallest corners of daily life, yet also echoes like a timeless riddle across the corridors of human history, philosophy, and spirituality. To grasp it is not merely to rearrange one's thoughts, but to sense the shifting of entire landscapes within the soul. The phrase calls us to reconsider what it means to live authentically, what it means to awaken, and what it means to stop searching for keys when we are already standing on the threshold of an open passage. Imagine a traveler who has wandered for decades through mountains, deserts, and seas, convinced that somewhere lies a hidden sanctuary that will reveal to them the meaning of their existence. Along the way, they endure storms, hunger, and despair. They climb cliffs and cross rivers, only to collapse in exhaustion at the door of a humble hut. Inside, they find no magical relics, no treasures of gold, only a mirror reflecting their own face, aged and weathered, yet still alive with light. The revelation arrives, not in the form of discovery, but recognition. They had been carrying the sanctuary within them all along. Such is the essence of this open door, so unassuming in its presence that we pass it daily without noticing, so constant that we dismiss it as invisible. The reason many never look is not because the door is hidden, but because it is too near. We are conditioned to expect that truth must be grand, that enlightenment must be an achievement waiting on some distant horizon, earned only after years of toil and sacrifice. The ordinary is dismissed as trivial, and the present moment is overlooked. In favor of imagined futures, we wander outward, seeking the extraordinary, while the extraordinary quietly waits in the ordinary we abandoned. Like a fish searching desperately for water, we fail to see that what sustains us has surrounded us all along. The metaphor of a door carries with it a sense of choice. A door suggests passage, movement, and possibility. Yet here lies the paradox. If the door to your true self has always been open, then you were never actually confined. What you perceived as imprisonment was a mirage, constructed by layers of belief, fear, and conditioning. You were never locked out, too were distracted, looking elsewhere, waiting for permission that was never required. The tragedy is not that people are locked away from themselves, but that they live as though they are, holding chains made of shadows, rattling them in despair, never realizing they could simply step through. This realization is not meant to diminish. The struggles of life, pain, loss, and uncertainty are real, and they carve deep channels in the human heart. But the open door does not deny suffering. It reframes it. It shows that even within suffering, a presence, a truth, a self remains untouched, like the sky that endures above the storm. This awareness does not erase challenges, but it transforms them from insurmountable barriers into passages that lead us deeper into understanding. It shifts life from being a quest for an absent key to being an unfolding journey of recognition. The cosmic resonance of this idea is profound. Mystics, poets, and philosophers across cultures have echoed it in countless forms. Some speak of the kingdom of heaven being within, others of awakening to the Buddha nature that already shines, others still of the self being one with the cosmos. Despite differences in language and imagery, the melody remains the same. That which we seek has never been absent. We are not moving toward our true self. We are rediscovering that we never left it. The door stands open, timeless and unmovable, like a starlit sky that has watched silently as generations passed beneath it, waiting for someone to finally lift their eyes. And yet, the simplicity of this truth is what makes it so easily overlooked. Our minds crave complexity, elaborate rituals, systems of thought that can be dissected and mastered. To be told that the answer is already present feels almost insulting to the ego that thrives on striving. Thus, many turn away, dissatisfied, searching again for something more difficult, more hidden, more seemingly valuable. The greatest wisdom is often dismissed precisely because it is too close, too accessible, too plain. The open door is not dramatic. It does not announce itself with trumpets or flames. It simply waits, silent, unmoved, ready to be noticed. To reflect on this is to realize that life itself is not a prison but a mirror. Each moment is a reflection pointing back toward the doorway. Each encounter, each setback, each joy contains the faint outline of the threshold. But until we pause, until we truly look, the outline remains invisible. The art of awakening lies in cultivating the courage and presence to see what has always been there. The invitation is perpetual, like the rhythm of breath, asking only that we stop ignoring what is closest. Thus, this introduction is not a promise of secrets hidden in distant mountains, nor of esoteric keys scattered across forgotten temples. It is a reminder that the temple is here, the key unnecessary, the door open. What is asked of us is not a pilgrimage across continents, but a pilgrimage inward, a turning of the gaze from the horizon back to the threshold already beneath our feet. To glimpse the open door is to begin to see life differently, not as a chase, but as a homecoming, not as an endless search, but as an awakening into presence. And so as we stand together at the beginning of this exploration, let us acknowledge the paradox that defines it, that what is most sought has never been missing, and what is most hidden has always been visible. The door is open, waiting. The only question that remains is whether you are willing, at last, to look. If the introduction is the moment of first noticing the doorway, then the unfolding of its themes is the act of stepping closer, brushing your hand across the frame, and beginning to perceive not only that the threshold exists, but that its openness has always been the nature of your life. To say the door to your true self has always been open is to bring to light a constellation of truths that ripple through every human experience, truths that dissolve illusions and ask us to reconsider what it means to know, to seek, and to be. These are not abstract notions meant for the shelves of philosophy alone. They pulse with the immediacy of daily breath, quietly guiding us toward the recognition that our existence is both simpler and more profound than we dare believe. The first theme is the illusion of distance. Human beings are wired to seek, to imagine futures, to construct goals that lie somewhere beyond the present. This instinct has served us well in survival, propelling us to innovate, to expand, to dream. Yet when applied to the realm of identity, it breeds the subtle poison of separation. We convince ourselves that who we are is somewhere out there, waiting to be reached after enough effort, wealth, recognition, or enlightenment. We live like thirsty wanderers chasing mirages in the desert, mistaking reflections of water for the water itself. The truth, unsettling in its clarity, is that there is no distance between you and yourself. The self you long to meet is not on the horizon. It is here, breathing through you even as you search. The illusion of distance vanishes when you pause to notice that the seeker and the sought are one. Interwoven with this is the theme of conditioned blindness. We are taught from the earliest age to identify with external roles: student, worker, parent, citizen. These masks become so familiar that we forget they are masks. They help us navigate society, but they also obscure the deeper essence that exists beneath them. The door to our true self is concealed, not because it is locked, but because we are distracted by the stage props and costumes of identity, mistaking them for the person wearing them. Like an actor who becomes lost in the role, we forget that, beyond the performance lies a presence unaffected by the script. The door is open, yet we are hypnotized by the play, never glancing toward the wings where our unchanging self waits. Another theme is the paradox of effort and non-effort. Life has conditioned us to believe that all valuable things must be earned through struggle. This belief can be empowering in some domains. Skill is sharpened through practice, muscles are strengthened through resistance. But when applied to the realm of inner truth, this belief becomes a trap. The more you struggle to become yourself, the further you drift from recognizing that you already are. To step through the open door is not a matter of force, but of surrender. It requires a letting go of striving, a quieting of the endless project of self-improvement, and a willingness to rest in the awareness that the essence you seek is already complete. This does not mean we stop growing, but that growth emerges from the fullness of being rather than from the desperation of lack. The theme of presence arises naturally here. To see the open door is to awaken to the present moment as the only place where truth can be found. The past is memory, the future imagination, but the doorway is always here, now. The mind, however, is a wanderer, leaping endlessly between what was and what could be, and so it misses the still point at the center of the storm. Presence is not a luxury. It is the act of alignment with reality as it unfolds. When we anchor ourselves in presence, the distractions that veil the doorway lose their power. We begin to notice the subtle, quiet self that has been here all along, not bound by stories, not confined by fears, simply waiting to be recognized. Equally essential is the theme of courage. Though the door is open, stepping through it requires bravery, for it means abandoning the familiar illusions that once gave us a sense of security. Many cling to their suffering, their false identities, their endless searching, because these patterns, though painful, are at least known. To let go is terrifying. It feels like a death, and in many ways, it is. A death of illusions, a death of egoic certainty, a death of the endless chase. But beyond that death lies freedom. The courage to look at the door is the courage to let everything false dissolved, to risk the unknown, and to discover that what remains is more solid than anything you could have clung to. A final theme is universality. This door is not unique to one person, culture, or era. It is not reserved for mystics or saints. It exists for every human being, equally open, equally present. It does not discriminate between the successful and the struggling, the enlightened and the confused. The invitation is universal, offered to all, waiting patiently in the heart of every person. Some notice it early, others late, some never at all, but the truth remains that it has always been there, unchanged by our awareness, or lack of it. The universality of the open door is perhaps its most humbling aspect, for it reminds us that enlightenment is not a rare jewel hidden in caves but the common inheritance of humanity, overlooked only because of its closeness. When these themes are gathered together, the illusion of distance, the blindness of conditioning, the paradox of effort, the centrality of presence, the necessity of courage, and the universality of the invitation, they form a constellation pointing toward the same truth. Each is a different facet of the same gem, each illuminating the reality that the self we seek has never been absent. To meditate upon them is to begin loosening the chains of habit and fear that keep us from seeing clearly. And so, in this second movement of our exploration, the concepts come into focus, not as dry philosophies, but as living patterns that shape our lives every moment. To hold them in awareness is to begin the slow, profound process of noticing what has always been here. It is to draw nearer to the door, to feel its presence, and to realize that all along, nothing stood in your way but your refusal to look. To understand the open door of the true self, not just as an idea, but as a living reality, one must step beyond abstract thought and into the realm of story and symbol. Human beings have always translated truth into narrative, weaving parables and myths that carry wisdom across generations. For what cannot be grasped directly by reason can sometimes be seen more clearly in the mirror of metaphor. The door, ever open yet seldom entered, lends itself to endless symbolic narratives, each one a prism refracting the same light, showing us new angles of its brilliance. Consider first the story of a man who lived his whole life in a vast library. The library was infinite, filled with endless rows of shelves and books that contained the knowledge of worlds. He spent his days searching through volumes, hoping that in one he would find the secret of who he truly was. He read tirelessly, turning page after page, but never found the answer. One evening, exhausted, he fell asleep with a book in his lap. In his dream, a voice whispered, "Why do you keep searching for yourself in the words of others when you carry the truth in your own silence?" He awoke, startled, dropped the book, and as he bent to retrieve it, he noticed for the first time a door at the end of the aisle, plain, unadorned, slightly ajar. He realized it had been there every day of his life, but his obsession with the shelves had blinded him to it. In trembling wonder, he stepped toward it, understanding at last that he did not need another book. He needed only to walk through. This tale mirrors our own tendency to search outward, through philosophies, identities, achievements, and validations, all the while ignoring the simple presence of the self already alive within us. The door in the library symbolizes the plainness of truth. It is not hidden among the elaborate but standing quietly in the ordinary. Another story, a village built its life around a great river. The people drank from it, fished from it, and carried its waters to nourish their fields. Over time, however, the river began to silt, and its waters grew shallow. The villagers panicked, believing they were doomed, for the river was their only source of life. A young child, too curious to be paralyzed by fear, wandered upstream and discovered a startling sight. The river had not disappeared at all. The true source still flowed abundantly, but debris had blocked its course, diverting the water. With patience, the child began to clear the blockage, and as the water rushed forth again, the river reclaimed its vitality. When the villagers asked how she had found it, she said simply, "The source was never gone. We only stopped looking where it began." This parable reveals another layer of the open door, that the true self is like the source of a rich, abundant, always flowing. What changes is not the existence of the source but our perception of it. Life's debris, fear, distraction, conditioning can obscure it, but the act of clearing these obstructions is not the creation of a new river, but the reawakening to one that has always been there. There is also the image of a bird, raised within a cage so large and ornate that it did not realize it was confined. The cage had open spaces between the bars, wide enough for the bird to leave at any time, but because the bird was raised within it, told it was home, told it was safe, it never dared to fly beyond. Generations of birds lived and died within the same cage, never realizing that freedom was a flap of wings away. Only one day, a gust of wind swept a feather through the bars, and a young bird, startled by the feather's flight, dared to test its own wings. It discovered the cage had never been closed. This allegory speaks to the conditioning that keeps us bound. The cage represents the beliefs and limitations we inherit from culture and fear, but the bars are illusions. The door has always been open. Freedom does not require breaking chains, but daring to see that there were no chains in the first place. Even nature itself mirrors the theme. Consider the seed of a tree. Within the seed lies the entire blueprint of a towering oak, yet the seed may lie dormant in the soil for years, appearing lifeless. When the rains come and the earth softens, the seed does not need to import life. From outside, it awakens what was always within. The oak was not added to the seed, nor bestowed by an external force. It was present all along, waiting for the conditions that would allow it to be seen. Similarly, your true self is not something you acquire but something that unfolds from what has always been within you. The door is not a portal into something foreign but an unveiling of what you already carry. Finally, let us imagine a dreamer wandering through a labyrinth. Each turn leads to another wall. Each passage spirals into confusion. The dreamer believes they must solve the labyrinth to escape. Yet after countless attempts, they collapse in exhaustion. In that stillness, a realization arises. The labyrinth was never real. It was the mind's construction, sustained by struggle. The moment the dreamer ceases to believe in it, the walls dissolve into mist, and before them lies an open field, endless and free. The dreamer laughs, realizing they had been standing in an open meadow all along, merely blinded by the illusion of walls. This dream strikes at the heart of the idea. The obstacles we imagine between us and our true self are constructs of perception. They vanish when we recognize their illusory nature. The labyrinth dissolves, and the open door reveals itself, not as something newly arrived, but as something eternally present. These symbolic narratives, though varied in imagery, all circle around the same axis, the truth that what we seek is already here. The library, the river, the cage, the seed, the labyrinth, all are metaphors for the illusions that keep us blind to the open door of our being. And each story ends not with the discovery of something new, but with the recognition of something that was always waiting. To reflect on these stories is to allow them to work subtly within you, as myths do, reshaping the architecture of thought not by argument but by resonance. They bypass the intellect and speak directly to the soul, reminding you that your journey is not toward something distant, but toward what has always been near. The great challenge of truths, such as the door to your true self has always been open, lies not in their beauty or even their depth, but in their application. It is one thing to marvel at parables of cages that were never closed or rivers whose sources were never lost. It is another to wake in the morning, face your daily responsibilities, and remember that you are not trapped. The question becomes, how do we bring this recognition into the weight of real life, into the pressure of deadlines, the ache of loss, the noise of cities, and the quiet desperation that often goes unspoken. How do we not only admire the idea, but live it? The first integration is to realize that looking at the door is not a separate practice from living itself. It is not something you must carve out hours for in retreat from the world. Rather, it is an awareness that can infuse the simplest acts. When you brush your teeth, commute to work, or wash the dishes, you are already standing at the threshold. To pause, even for a breath, and notice your own presence in that moment is to glimpse the door. It does not require incense or mantras though. Those may help, but the ordinary itself is sacred ground. Every moment offers the invitation to recognize, I am here, I am whole, nothing is missing. This recognition has profound implications for how we approach struggle. Most people live as though their problems are proof of their unworthiness, as if each obstacle is evidence that the door is locked, and they must labor for years to find the key. But when you see the door has always been open, challenges transform in meaning. They are no longer barriers to yourself, but opportunities to reveal it. Pain, loss, and failure are not signs that you are cut off from truth. They are the places where the truth insists on being seen. The self that you are cannot be broken by circumstances, only obscured. To live from this realization is to meet hardship not as an exile but as a teacher pointing you back to what is unshakable within. The open door also shifts our relationship with ambition and achievement. In a world that glorifies striving, people often chase success as a way to justify their existence. We believe that once we earn enough, accomplish enough, or become impressive enough, we will finally deserve to rest in ourselves. But the open door tells us the opposite, that rest comes first, that worthiness is not earned but inherent. When we see this, our ambitions do not vanish, but they transform. We no longer act from desperation or fear of lack, but from creativity and freedom. Success becomes an expression of who we are, not a condition for being enough. We cease to be beggars pleading for validation, and instead become creators who share from fullness. This shift naturally changes our relationships with others. Much of human conflict arises from the belief that we are incomplete and must secure our worth through control, approval, or dominance. When we feel disconnected from our true self, we grasp at others to supply what we think we lack. But if the door has always been open, if the self is whole already, then we approach relationships differently. We no longer seek to extract or possess, we seek to share. Love becomes less a transaction and more a recognition of the same truth in another. The open door allows us to see not only ourselves but others as whole, and from this place, compassion flows naturally. Integration also demands courage in the practical world. To live as though the door is open requires us to question the patterns we inherited, patterns that insist we are small, broken, or powerless. It requires us to act from a place of authenticity rather than conformity. This might mean speaking truth where silence once reigned, pursuing a path of creativity when convention demands obedience, or daring to rest when the world insists on relentless productivity. Such choices can feel radical, even dangerous, because they strip away the illusions society uses to control. Yet these acts of authenticity are how the open door becomes embodied in daily life. Each choice that reflects your true self is a step through. Another real-world implication is the healing of anxiety. Much of modern anxiety stems from the belief that we are perpetually behind, perpetually failing to reach some imagined state of adequacy. We scroll through endless comparisons, haunted by the sense that we are not yet enough. The open door interrupts this narrative. It reminds us that nothing stands between us and our true self, that nothing is lacking right now. Anxiety may not vanish instantly, but its grip loosens when we see that the race we thought we were running does not exist. We were never chasing after worth. We already had it. What remains is to live it, one breath at a time. Perhaps the most powerful implication is the return of wonder. When you live as though the door is locked, life feels like a grind each day, a struggle towards something perpetually out of reach. But when you realize the door is open, life shifts from being a chase to being a homecoming. The ordinary world trees swaying in the wind, laughter echoing down a street, the taste of bread, the silence before dawn becomes luminous. You are no longer waiting for life to begin, you are in it. The veil thins, and the sacred reveals itself in every corner. This is not an escape from reality, but a deeper immersion into it. A recognition that what you sought in distant horizons was always woven into the fabric of now. In practical terms, this does not mean you will never feel lost again. The forgetting will return. The illusions will creep back. But each time you remember, each time you turn and notice the door, the path grows clearer. Over time, the remembering becomes more natural than the forgetting. Living as though the door is open is not about perfection. It is about returning, again and again, to the awareness that you are never locked out. It is about choosing presence over distraction, truth over illusion, authenticity over fear. The implications ripple endlessly. Freedom from unnecessary striving, a softer approach to suffering, authenticity in action, love without possession, courage in daily choices, healing of anxiety, and the return of wonder. Each ripple flows from the same source, the same recognition. The self you seek has always been here. The door is open, and life itself is the act of walking through. At the end of this journey, we find ourselves not at some distant destination, but at the same threshold we began, with a doorway that has always been open, yet something has shifted. The difference is not in the door, which has stood quietly, ajar for as long as you have lived, but in your gaze. Once overlooked, it now gleams with significance. Once dismissed as too ordinary, it now radiates with the quiet majesty of truth. You have not been given a new self, nor have you discovered a hidden passage. You have remembered, and remembrance is the essence of awakening. The door is the symbol of paradox. It separates, yet it does not separate. It invites you to cross, though you were never outside. It suggests a threshold, yet the threshold dissolves the moment you step through, revealing that you had always been home. This is the ultimate irony of the spiritual path. We chase it, we strive, we struggle, and in the end, we discover that the treasure was never lost. The entire drama was necessary only so that we could awaken to what has always been near. But recognition alone is not enough. To see the open door is one thing. To live as though it is open is another. The call of this realization is not to retreat into contemplation forever, but to embody it, to let its truth shape your choices, your relationships, your creativity, your courage. This is the transformational call, to stop living as though you are locked out of yourself, and to begin living as though you belong fully to your own being. Imagine for a moment the ripple effect, if even a handful of people lived from this recognition. Think of a world where individuals did not grasp at others for validation because they knew their worth already, where ambition was driven not by desperation but by authentic creativity, where relationships were rooted in mutual recognition of wholeness rather than in fear of incompleteness. Such a world would be gentler, more compassionate, yet also more alive with genuine power. The door to the true self is not only a personal truth but a collective one. When one person steps through, it lights a torch for others to see. Your life then becomes more than survival. It becomes a testament. Each time you choose presence over distraction, each time you dare to speak truth instead of hiding behind fear, each time you look at yourself or another and recognize wholeness instead of lack, you testify to the open door. You show, not with words but with being, that the kingdom of authenticity is not a promise deferred to the future, but a reality alive in the now. Of course, the forgetting will return. You will once again mistake yourself for your roles, your struggles, your fears. You will once again look outward, searching for keys. Do not despair. The forgetting is part of the dance, and the door never closes. Every time you return, the act of remembrance grows stronger. Like a path through a field, it becomes easier to walk with repetition. Slowly, the truth becomes not a fleeting glimpse, but a steady ground beneath your feet. So here we stand, at the close of words but not the close of the journey. The invitation remains. Will you live as though the door is locked, wandering in search of keys that do not exist, or will you live as though it has always been open? The choice is yours, and it is made not once but every moment. Each breath is an opportunity to step through, to reclaim the home you never left. The transformational call is simple, yet it reverberates with cosmic weight. Look, see, step through. Do not wait for permission, for rituals, for future accomplishments. Do not wait for the world to change before you dare to live as yourself. The door is here, now, open. You are invited to walk in, to embody the wholeness you already are, and to allow your life to become the radiant echo of that truth. And so, let us end where we began, with the reminder whispered softly, yet with the force of eternity. The door to your true self has always been open. You just never looked. Now you have looked. Now you know. The only question left is whether you will live accordingly.